Whoa, what's that? Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope you all had a lovely weekend, and if you're watching this at a later date, I hope that whenever your last weekend was, that it was a good one. As you can see, I've done a little work off camera, and I've changed up the scene a little bit. Mac was originally going to be mostly off camera, but I decided that his reaction would be more appropriate. This episode is going to be a little bit shorter than the rest. For whatever reason, my capture software decided to freeze on me halfway through, and it didn't resume until I paused and unpaused it. So I apologize. Hopefully that won't happen again anytime soon. And if you saw the last episode, goodness, I apologize for that. That was horrid. I don't know what happened to the audio. I didn't know how to fix it. Again, that won't be happening anytime soon. Moving on to what's in front of us, I'm animating Mac's reaction to hearing the girl's voice. Interestingly enough, Mac's design used to include thick white glasses, solid opaque glasses that, while may have been more fitting for his character being this intellectual genius, it wouldn't have allowed for the type of scenes and reactions that are taking place here. And while I do like the glasses, and maybe I'll find a way to incorporate them somewhere at some other point, when you have something that looks like this, it's hard to pass up just getting rid of them. And that was the design choice that I made back when I was starting out Miserable Mac episode 2, was that I just had to take out the glasses. Oh, and right here, this is where it cut out and it skipped ahead, so I completely colored in his head and did most of the animation, and so I apologize you didn't get to see that because there were some fun things that I wanted to talk about, but we're just gonna have to deal with it and move on. So you'll notice that a couple of things here is that I'm using a thicker brush for his face, for his body, and I'm also using shading, something that you don't see in any of the other characters. And I opted for that design choice mainly for an aesthetic purpose. It just looked right. I was originally using a thicker brush to just do the sketch, but then I looked at it and said, hey, this actually works. And I went with it. And right here, I'm just going in and I'm making everything shaky. As you can see, that kind of like jumping back and forth of his face and his mouth, and I'll be doing it to the eyebrows right here as well, because he's scared. And that's something that those two frames that go back and forth, smoothing and unsmoothing, that can be used to convey motion in otherwise solid objects, and it can also be done to make someone scared or anxious. This part right here, this is a bit of a drawing. This is a bit of the animation that I opted not to use. Having the lower eyelids kind of come up a little bit as he's scared, and it just kind of made him look creepy. I mean, obviously he already looks scary, but it made him look sort of a way that I didn't want him to look. So I ended up drawing it and just not using it. Which is too bad. I kept it, I turned it into a guide layer, which is a layer that won't show up in the final animation. So if I decide to put it in later or go back and change it, I can do that. But it's unfortunate. You spend time on something and it doesn't pan out, but that's okay, you know. I don't have any deadlines, so I can afford to waste time on something like that. And yeah, you know, it does look a little bit off. So I haven't colored in the shoulders yet, because that's something that I'm going to be animating next. And the shoulders, again, they were something that I decided not to keep, so you're going to get to watch me animate them and then just cut them out. Unfortunately, you know. In the previous shot, the shot that is not going to be present in the final animation, I had the shoulders animated and it looked really good, and that's why I decided to try and draw them like this. I think part of the problem is that they're way over exaggerated. Had I gone back and maybe lessened that, made it to a smaller degree, it would have been acceptable, and maybe I could have worked with it. But what I ended up doing instead was just making his whole character move up and down a little bit as if he jumped. And I think the effect that we ended up with was probably a little bit better. So yeah, I just decided to color it and then add the shaky effect to it, which, as we've seen in the past, works pretty darn well for what we're doing. And here, yeah, right here is where we go in and add that effect to it. So now we're going back to the timeline, and what I'm gonna do, yep, here's animating the bounce. But I'm actually gonna darken him, and mainly I'm doing that because he's a foreground object, and sort of the focus is on Jamie. You want to see Mac's reaction. I really like that reaction. I really like everything about this scene so far. But Jamie is sort of the focus. And so now we're actually going back to animating Jamie because, again, I haven't finished it yet. We're actually going in to watch to finish doing the final drawings of her pose, or most of them. We're actually going to go back to doing the construct lines. And here's that technique that I talked about where I use a different colored tool, and I actually have the brush setting to paint behind so that I can draw the full hand just because I need to kind of visualize how it'll look, but then I can go and erase most of it and erase it easily without disturbing the other lines that I have already laid down. So one thing you'll see right here, the arm doesn't look quite perfect, but it's in the middle of a quick movement. So I decided to leave it, I just went with it and said, hey, it's only there for, what, a 1/10 of a second? It's something that really, she's in the middle of movement, it's not going to be noticeable. So I just left it and went ahead and went on to the rest of the animation. And having seen the finished animation, it is done now, or this part of it. Still have to do the head and a couple other things, which we'll see in upcoming episodes. It looked really good. Alright everyone, that's all I have for today. I'll check in with you next time. Until then, enjoy the rest of the footage and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a little thumbs up. And if you have questions, comments, or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below, so that I know, and so that I can keep providing you with something to watch. To check out the rest of this series, click on the TV, and if you want to see the first episode of Miserable Mac, click on the computer. For more of my other work, take a look at my YouTube page, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks again for watching.